Hey, everybody. J Real here once again with my buddy Brandon. And it is May the 24th, 2025. And we're here in Texas, and the weather's been pretty nice here the last few days. But it's that time of year where we have the storms. And of all days when the storms are going to come in would be Memorial Day, Monday. We're supposed to start having storms on that day. And pretty good chance of rain pretty much every day after that, that 40-50% chance. So, but it's that time of year for Texas. The storms and the rain and the tornadoes and stuff. So hopefully we're not going to get any tornadoes, but yeah, I get in these moods for the kind of movies I want to watch sometimes. And I've been in a Friedkin mood lately. I don't know if he's my favorite director, but he's right at the top of one of my favorite directors. And so we're going to talk about him. But first, I don't know, you guys watched some of my earlier shows. Heard me speak of my friend Barry, who passed away a few years ago, and wanted to kind of, he was like a brother to me. He was my best friend through like middle school and so for like 40 something years, he was my best friend, and he passed away a few years ago. And Brandon has someone, a good friend of his that recently passed. And he kind of wanted to dedicate this show to him.
I figured if we're going to talk about the William Friedkin movies, and The Exorcist is about priests and stuff, and one of the coolest priests I ever met passed away. Father Isidore, man, he was cool. He would drink beer, had a motorcycle and stuff. He was like the coolest priest, and he's my grandmother's priest. I knew him when I was a kid and stuff, and he was a good man. And then of course when I worked at the rest home, I saw him, and it's just one of those things to where you just kind of see someone every day, and then one day they're dead and gone. So it's kind of, I just wanted to give a little tribute to him, because he was a good man. Like, there's a lot of priests that are bad, but he wasn't one of them. He was definitely a good dude. Yeah, so it's just, it sucks, but he's in a better place. But like I said, he was one of the cool priests. I remember when I was a kid, I would ask him about demons and stuff, and he'd be like, "You watch too much TV." But because I was curious, and it's an interesting thing to ask priests and pastors and stuff. Since I'm a fan of The Exorcist, you always ask them stuff about like demonic possession and stuff, and sometimes they'll tell you, yeah, it's real, and other times they'll be like, it's too much TV. It doesn't happen, So, but yeah, he's a good dude, one of the cool priests. Always like a priest that you can have a beer with. Ain't all like my grandma had another one named Father David, and he was a square, man. He wasn't really all that cool. Nice guy, but he was just a square. You couldn't have a beer with Father David. Not trying to hate on him or anything, but I just like the cool priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. And if there's anybody watching and you want to give a shout out to someone that's maybe recently passed that you wanted to, I'll give a shout out to them, because that's what we should do. We should, celebrate the people that are close to us, our friends and all that have passed on. And, that's how you do it. Is talk about them, nice memories you had of them and things like that. And so, yeah. But cool. Cool that, particularly being a priest, that someone that you was close to, sounded like
he was a cool dude, man. Like I said, you see him at the picnics and stuff, and he would talk about Bud Light in his sermons and shit. Like, it was crazy. He was like the coolest priest, dude. That's what I'm saying. And it's like, is that him on a motorcycle just driving off and stuff? Like, dude, he's awesome. He should have been a Baptist instead of a Catholic, and he probably would have been chasing some women or something. That would have made him even cooler.
Another thing I've been doing here lately, but I subscribed to HBO Max. It was just Max, and now it's HBO Max. It's changed the stuff. It always was an HBO channel, but anyway, I
Yeah.
subscribed to Max mainly because I wanted to watch the Last of Us 2 series. But there's a lot of really good stuff on there. I've started rewatching True Detective last night, the original with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. Um, and there's a lot of good movies on there and stuff. But anyway, I've been rewatching the Final Destination films, and pretty much all of them I really enjoy, except for four. Four sucks.
Is that the final? Is that
It's the
one?
one. It's the one. It's the NASCAR race, and
The bad computer effects. So when someone gets killed, it looks like PlayStation.
it's so bad. Yeah, the CGI is really, because most of them have CGI effects, but that one really sucks. The kills aren't really good. Yeah, that's the only really bad one is four. The rest of them I enjoy on different levels. I think maybe two's my favorite. That log truck is the best sequence out of
Oh
all.
yeah, and it looks so. The special effects hold up really good in two as well. I mean, that whole big highway, it all looks real
Yeah.
for the most part.
But anyway, you saw Final. I didn't see it, but you saw Final Destination Bloodline. So tell us about that.
I was actually surprised by it because I didn't have high hopes because the Final Destination was, to me, that's one of those movies you laugh at 'cause it's so bad and it looks like PlayStation or something when they get killed. It's all, and I was like, I don't know about this. It's going to be. And I never seen five. Supposedly five is really
You
good,
need to
but I
see.
ain't seen.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you need to see five. Five makes up for four.
Okay,
It gets good again. Even though there's a lot of CGI, the CGI is good in five. There's some really good kills in five. Five makes up for four.
but since I didn't see five, I was just kind of, I don't know. I went to see, and I was actually really impressed. The ending was kind of stupid, but besides the ending, like it was actually really good, and people complain about the CGI. You know how they have the premonition to where they show the deaths before they actually die. I don't know how you would do that practical. Like, there's no way you would be able to because it involves like one of those weird buildings that looks like it's from the Jetsons or something. Where it's like real skinny and it's like. So I don't understand how you would do that. I guess you could use miniatures or something, but I don't know. So it wasn't bad, and it was I like how it had like a dark humor to it, like a dark irony to the song. Like there'd be songs on the radio that'll be kind of hinting at what's going to happen. There's a shitty kid that gets killed, and that was funny. And I was the only one who laughed in the theater. There was like two or three other people, and so that was kind of awkward. But it was funny because he was a shit, and he deserved it. And so when he got killed, I was like, it wasn't as bad as the Terrifier 3 bomb thing to where me and my friends laughed and everybody else was kind of looking at us like we're psychos. But like it was, I was sitting by myself up in the corner, which probably made it even weirder because everyone else had people with them. And here's this big burly guy with a beard sitting in the corner laughing at the kid getting killed. But it was good, man. And Tony Todd had a scene in it that was really emotional and sad because it looked like he was dying. I guess when he was making the movie, he's all skin and bones. And
Yeah, well, he passed away shortly after filming his part, and yeah, I've heard that gets really emotional.
yeah, it's really, he basically tells him, "Let's enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. You ain't got much time left." And the kills in this are really good. Like I don't want to spoil them, but when you see the movie, like it might be my favorite kills out of all the ones I've seen were probably in this one, which I didn't expect.
What do you call it? Rube Goldberg kills.
Yeah.
Where some little innocent thing will happen. A cup of water will get knocked over, and that will,
Yeah, that's what I love it, like Mousetrap, like doop,
Mousetrap, yeah.
doop. But like these kills were actually some of the best in the series. So I got to rewatch 2, but it's up there with the second one because the second one's my favorite out of all the ones I've seen. But this one might have had the best kills, and I like how I kind of like period piece type stuff. And there's some parts of the movies that takes place in like the 50s, and it's kind of cool seeing the people in like the wardrobe of like the old timey wardrobe and stuff. And it's almost like the Towering Inferno or something at the beginning of the movie. Like it's like really good. And this one was one that actually made me like kind of hurt a little bit, like with the kills. Then you kind of feel it, like you're like, ow, like. But it's kind of hard to talk about it without, I don't want to spoil anything. But I would recommend seeing it. I had a choice between that one and Clown in the Cornfield, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go with Final Destination's Bloodlines, because that Clown in the Cornfield, I don't know about that one.
I watched what was it, Cody Leach review Clown in the Cornfield, and he said it's pretty good. It's pretty much what you would expect.
Yeah.
He isn't as good as like Art the Clown, but he's pretty good. The Clown's in it pretty good. Just some pretty good.
It's just one of those ones I've seen it. I'm just like, I don't know. It's just kind of generic slasher movie, scary man in mask, kill people.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll check it.
Huh? He said for a movie of that type, it's enjoyable enough,
Yeah, he's one of the few critics I listen to, because normally, I guess our taste in movies are kind of the same. So if he says something is good, I'm more than likely going to enjoy it,
Yeah.
I used to watch this guy called, I think his name was Chris Stuckman.
Yeah.
And I don't know, some of the stuff that he would recommend, I used to go by him, but I'm like, I don't know. It's like we're not on the same barometer, I guess,
I still watch his stuff, but Cody Leach is my main guy,
Yeah, he's a good one. And then, like, I watch Rambo Rap sometimes, but he's kind of 50-50. So if he likes something, it's kind of maybe iffy if I like it.
Speaking of Friedkin, he didn't like your favorite movie. He didn't like it.
Yeah, my dad didn't either. Rambo Rap and my father are the only people I ever met, I think, that didn't like The Exorcist.
He says it's boring.
I should send that video to my pops, because he basically is almost like listening to a younger version of my dad go on a rant. And I was like, but The Exorcist is awesome, though. And he's like, it's boring. Nothing's when's she going to start cussing and spin her head around? I'm like, it's called The Exorcist because it's about the priest. The priest is the exorcist, not the little girl possessed. Like, I don't know. But I think that we'll get to that, but I think that's the greatest movie ever made. I love that movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get that. That'll be, we'll save the best for last, kind of.
Yeah.
But speaking of William Friedkin, because we're not going to go into really specifics about his career and stuff, but I'll tell you where to go. Go to Tubi, and there's a fairly recent documentary that was made in the last couple of years, right? Yeah, just a little bit before he passed away. He passed away last year, William Friedkin, and it's called Friedkin Uncut. And
yeah, it's on my watch list.
It's on Tubi, and it's really good. William Friedkin's the main guy talking. It's an interview with him. He talks about all his movies, but you got a lot of the actors that were in his films. Willem Dafoe and well, anyway, pretty much every actor of note that was in his movies talk about, the films they made with him and stuff. I love documentaries anyway, but that is one of the best I've seen recently, and it's Friedkin Uncut on Tubi. So, yeah, if you want specifics about, the making of his films and such, look that up.
Oh, yeah. I went on Tubi, and I didn't have time to watch it, but I added it to my watch list. But I've seen some interviews he did, and the one with Al Pacino, the one where he talked about Al Pacino, was hilarious. Because they're like, what do you think about Al Pacino? And he's like, I don't give a fuck. Well, he said something like, I don't give a rolling fuck into a donut or some shit about what Al Pacino thinks.
Well, and that's something that I will say about another thing about William Friedkin. Go to YouTube and just search William Friedkin. There's a ton of videos where he's at different festivals or whatever and stuff, and it's just him talking about movies or interviews with him. And there is nobody better as far as a director just talking about movies and filmmaking. There's nobody any better.
There's a great American Film Institute video where he does a small breakdown of High Noon, and it's really good. I like hearing him talk about other people's movies too, because like I said, he gets a good interview, and he's real entertaining to listen to.
Yeah, and just about movies in general, just movies that he really liked and whatever. But there was nobody better about just talking about movies than William Friedkin. He was the best at it. Uh, uh, but yeah,
Have
we'll
you
kind of
seen
skip
the?
around. I still haven't seen everything he's done. I'm close. There's still a few that I need to see.
Yeah, he has a very diverse. Like he doesn't just stick to one genre. It's like I I think the oldest one I watched was the Boys in the Band, which is a drama, and then you fast forward to the French Connection, which is like a crime thriller, and then you have like The Exorcist, which is like a horror film, and then I don't remember too much about it, but I remember The Guardian was kind of a weird like horror film, and then you had Rampage, which is like a crime thriller too, and he had the IMDb said he had some comedies as well. And then there's that. I think the newest movie he made was for Netflix called The Devil and Father Amort, which was about a documentary about this priest that did exorcisms. And it
Ooh,
was like yeah, I was kind of, if you want to see some silly shit, that's definitely one of the movies.
what is someone I know I've ever pronounced your name there? Rydeen Stan? Freaking was such an electric character. Yeah, yeah. I love just watching him talk about movies. And Bug is underrated. Yeah, we'll certainly talk about Bug. But uh, I wanted to talk after watching that Freaking Uncut. He talked about the very first thing he did. And it was a documentary. And it was called The People versus Paul Crump. Paul Crump, Crump. The People versus Paul Crump. In 1962. And it was a black man on death row. And I've never seen it. But basically, the documentary got the man off death row. Saved his life. He was still in prison, but he got off death row because of this documentary. So William Friedkin's very first film saved a man's life. uh, the People versus Paul Crump. I want to look it up, and try to find it. Even he says it's not a very good documentary. It was the very first thing he did, but he's proud of the fact that it got this man off death row. So yeah, The People versus Paul Crump. But where do you want to start? Like I said, we'll just skip around. But where do you want to start as
Well,
far as film?
the I basically what I did is I wasn't able to watch everything, but I went as far back as I could find, and I watched one called The Boys in the Band. I wasn't even really sure too much what it was about, and it started out kind of funny, but it got really dark towards the end of the movie. I don't know if you ever seen that. Have you seen that, The Boys in the
No,
Band from the 70s?
I've heard about it. It's a group of gay friends.
Yeah, it's like these gay guys, and then one of the guys, I guess, is closeted, and he just kind of comes over and causes there's some problems. But it starts out funny, but then as the movie progresses, it gets more dark and depressing. And the main character, Michael, who you think you like, he turns out to be a scumbag, and it's just it's hard to explain, but it gets crazy. And then at the end, of course, they're drinking and stuff, and whenever people are real emotional, alcohol doesn't really help the situation. So they get drunk, and he like makes people call someone they love on the telephone, and if they don't do it, he like screams at them and shit. And and then like everyone starts having mental breakdowns towards the end of the movie because some of them are struggling with being gay, or like they're promiscuous, and one guy's jealous of the other guy being with other people and stuff. And then like the dude who's in the closet freaks out and beats up like the flamboyant one. And then there's a black one, and the main guy, Michael, starts saying like racist stuff towards him and stuff, and makes that guy have a breakdown. And then this all centers around a dude's birthday party, by the way. So there's a guy named Harry. It's his birthday, and he's Jewish. And so he starts he calls him like anti-Semitic stuff towards the end too. So it's like this guy's birthday, and you think it's going to be a good birthday. They got him a hooker and everything, and you think it's going to be fun, and then it just turns dark and sad and depressing. And then the guy, he has a big mental breakdown, and then after everyone's gone and all the trouble is over, he's like, maybe we shouldn't hate each other so much. And it's just like the end of the movie. And I was like, damn.
How did you watch it? Because I tried to find it and I couldn't find it streaming.
I rented it on Amazon Prime and I took a chance on it. I'm like, it's based on a play and it got remade for Netflix. So I guess it'll probably be justified me spending my money on it. It'll probably be pretty good. And anyways, I rented it. It was entertaining and I liked it. It's weird. I guess maybe because it's a play, it kind of all takes place. It's based on play. It all takes place pretty much in the same location. So it kind of reminds me of Reservoir Dogs because there's like a lot of talking and shit. It's like just mostly like talking, like dialogue driven and stuff. And it's kind of all centered around this one location, which is this dude's apartment. And they're not in a band or anything. So I guess the band is just a group of friends, like a band of friends. I don't know. But that poor guy, I felt bad for him. It's his birthday, and all this shit went down because Michael had to be a self-hating asshole.
Well, and like I said, we're just going to skip around here. I'm not going to start at the beginning and go to the end necessarily. But since this is a film about, gay friends or gay culture, let's keep in that theme, I guess. 1980s Cruising. Now, this was a movie that I just saw this like last week. It's on YouTube, by the way. If you want to watch it, it's Cruising's on YouTube. And this is a movie back in the VHS days. I always saw that VHS cover, and it's Al Pacino all decked out with the leather and the whole paraphernalia of the gay sort of S&M culture. The bars, the gay bars, all dressed in leather, and the sex parties and such. And I don't know, as a teenager and stuff, I just sort of steered away from it. And it's like, this seems like something I shouldn't watch.
It's very, people say Friedkin has a documentary feel to his films. I feel that way about Cruising because it's almost like you feel like the camera, like you're the camera, like walking. If you feel that way, because even in the bars,
but I'm glad you said that. Particularly during the scenes at the bars, I'm telling you, if you're sensitive at all about,
I'll put it to you like this, like I'm bisexual, so I'm not homophobic. But even for someone like me, I'm like, that's a bit much. Do we really need to see the dude going like this with the grease and?
That's something that Friedkin always researched whatever subject he was filming, whether it be exorcism or cops or whatever. He always,
but it's I get it. I don't think I don't blame him for doing that because it is shocking, and I'm sure that it probably freaked a bunch of people out who saw it when it came out in the 80s. I know Siskel and Ebert gave it a negative review, but they kind of shit on everything, too.
Well, at the time, gay culture was really against the film because they thought it was anti-gay, that it had an anti-gay message. I don't really see that, but they tried to get the film banned, tried to get it taken out of theaters.
They had to. I think they had to redo pretty much all the audio because weren't there protesters like screaming and blowing air horns and shit? So,
but anyway, the basic story is Al Pacino. He's a cop. He's an undercover agent, and there's a murderer that is killing gay men. That go to these bars, dressed in leather with the hats and the whole, everything, goes and has sex with them. And then with a knife, he stabs them in the back. And there's some really brutal kills in this movie.
Did you notice? And I actually looked this up because I was watching it. And I guess with the HD, you could really see it. But I was like, when he stabbed him, it looked like a dick. And I was like, what? And I went and I paused it. And it looked like a dick, and I Googled it, and it turns out that William Friedkin subliminally zoomed in shots of hardcore porn whenever he would stab the guy. So if you watch it, it's really fast. It's like you blink and you miss it. But what the fuck?
That I didn't know. I didn't know he did that.
No,
Uh,
because if you slow it down, because that's what I did. I slowed it down and I watched it. I'm like, holy shit, it's your dick. That's what William Friedkin put. And I googled it, and it turns out, yeah, he did that for like a subliminal thing. I don't know, but
uh,
it's just in that one. It's just in that one scene. And but yeah, it's a real tense scene too, because he ties the guy up, and you could tell it. You could tell like he's all up, like he generally looks really upset, and he just and it's like painful looking too, just like
yeah. Uh, and it's a very well made movie. It's and it has that documentary, like I said, that documentary feel. Like a lot of his films have a documentary feel, because that's where you got to start making documentaries. And the only thing I didn't care for was the ending. Now, many of his films have an ambiguous ending that kind of leaves you thinking, you know. But that one, I didn't care for the ending to Cruising because I don't want to. Well, I'll spoil it. You don't really
it's
find
like
out.
it's over 40 years old. I mean, if they ain't
Yes,
seen it by now.
you don't really find out who the killer is, and it's left open ended. Like
Did you
because you
think?
think maybe the killer's caught and then someone else is killed, and then you're like,
Did you
well,
think? Did you think that maybe it was Pacino that murdered him, or because it was weird?
yeah, yes. And I wondered if maybe because he had a confrontation with that guy, didn't
Yeah. So
he?
maybe Pacino was kind of fond of that other guy. Then he got jealous and killed. I don't know, or
Yeah,
maybe
and it's left open ended, and most of the time I like that. I like when Freakin does that. Kind of leaves a little bit hanging at the end. It leaves you asking questions. He did that with Bug. He did that with Killer Joe. A lot of his movies, even Exorcist to an extent, kind of leaves you with some questions. But that one, I don't know. I didn't like the ending to Cruising because it's
yeah,
like,
it was. But you see the character. He kind of like hallucinates that it's his dad, and his voice even changes and stuff. So it's like he's obviously the killer. So did like someone was there two of them or something, or did
well,
Pacino?
yeah,
It was
that's the
weird.
thing. Is like, and also was it like his fingerprints were on like a ticket or
That
something?
yeah, no, his fingerprints because he killed that guy at the peep show, and he had a blood thumbprint. And then they found the knife at the same place he worked at, and his handprint was on the weapon and everything. So it's like it's him, but then it's not him. I don't.
And
And
like,
the movie
like you,
cheats because the killer changes. It looks like different actors.
but like you said, the last guy that's killed, I almost wonder if that was Pacino because you don't know. It doesn't say. You don't. The movie doesn't say. But I almost wondered if Pacino did that, because once he gets deep into undercover, he starts to freak out. It's like, well, this is just. He tries to get out of it. He tells his superior, "I got to get out of this. This is too much." And also, there's the thing that he's feeling that, well, maybe he might be kind of turning gay, and that's freaking him out because he's got a girlfriend, or is this his wife or a girlfriend?
I think it's his girlfriend, but I love that scene with the damn. I forgot the actor's name, but he's in Goodfellas and shit. He's a police chief. He's like, "You ever had your pulse sucked by a man?" Yeah, he's like, Have you ever like took it up the butt or something or whatever?" And Pacino's like, "What?" And he's like, "You ever have your pole smoked by a man?" But another thing about that movie that bugs me is Pacino don't question nobody. He goes to the bars and you see him looking around. He might talk to one or two people, but it looks like he's just there drinking beer. Like he ain't even. I wish the movie would have had him questioning people more, or
Yeah,
maybe
well,
doing more detective work.
my understanding was basically he was trying to lure the killer. He was trying to put himself out there, like, "Hey, look at me! Yeah, look, I'm sexy."
I
You
know,
don't see
I know that, but it would have been good if maybe he like. I like police movie. Well, there is an interrogation scene, which is the first time I seen that. It was just like, what the hell? But it's just it would have been nice to maybe see Pacino like, hey, what's that guy doing over there? More, or just try to, or damn the guy Joe Spinell, is that his name? The dude from Maniac. He's in
Yeah,
the
the
movie.
maniac guy. Yeah,
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see maybe more of him because he's just kind of a sleazy bastard, and
Hey,
it would have been
sis.
nice seeing him in the film more, I think.
Uh, and then there's a scene where it's him and this other guy. They're about to get it on, and Pacino's got his hands tied behind his back, and he's bare assed. And then the cops come in, and but I think Pacino didn't know that was going to happen. I think he was just going to get busy with that guy.
Then
and
like the whole thing is like they're listening on a radio, and I guess they can't hear too good, but like the guy doesn't want to tie Pacino up, but they still take him into questioning and stuff. And it's just kind of like if he was the killer, he would have just tied him up right away and not been weirded out by the whole situation. But
that
anyway,
big
he's
muscle bound black guy
in a jock strap and a cowboy hat, comes in, slaps him, and leaves.
slaps him. He said, "Man, you hit me too hard."
And he takes his hat and throws it out the window. Oh, and we forgot Al Bundy's in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Al Bundy from Married with Children's in the movie. So, like, I like to think that after he won the football championship or whatever that was, he went to be a cop and then retired and went back to his hometown.
But yeah, it's a very well made movie. I have mixed feelings about the movie itself, but it's very well made. It has that patented documentary Friedkin style.
Do you think it would have been better? Because I know William Friedkin didn't want Al Pacino, and they had problems on set. So you think maybe it'd been better if they had a different act? Because I like Pacino's performance in the movie. Like, I'm a big Al Pacino fan, but I know Friedkin didn't like his performance, and they had issues, and he wanted somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I forgot the actor, but he wanted an actor who looked androgynous to be the Steve Burns character instead of like Al Pacino. But I don't know. I think Pacino did fine.
I think he did good. No, I liked him in the movie. I don't like I say what bothers me the most, I guess, is the ending. That kind of for usually I like that kind of ending, particularly from Friedkin. But this time, I wanted something a little more concrete about the killer and who the actual the guy that's looked like that was a killer that they apprehended.
You know what's crazy is when the killer's in the hospital, the police chief is like, if you do this plea deal, we'll give you 8 years. And it's like, wait a minute, he gets 8 years for murdering all those people? Like, what?
But yeah, it's definitely something. And like I say, it's on YouTube, so look it up, Cruising. But yeah, prepare yourself if you're sensitive to certain things.
I can see why some people might think it painted them in a bad light, but I mean, straight people have clubs like that too. I mean, it's just, I thought it was interesting, and it's kind of, also, you're dealing with very masculine men, so to have a killer that preys on men, tying them up would kind of, because that first dude was buff, like he was really big and shit. It's like the killer would have had a hard time just killing him, so it's kind of a way of trapping them.
It's what he says to him after he kills him. You made me do this.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, John Wayne Gacy, that's how he used to kill people, because, he was fat and in bad shape, but he'd be like, let me show you a trick, and he would tie their hands up and stuff, and then he would kill them after tying them up, because I think he got his ass kicked by one of them, and they got away. So it's kind of like, well, you have this big muscled up dude, you kind of seduce him, whatever, tie him up, and then he can't do nothing. And also it adds a weird sexual aspect, which I'm sure in the 80s kind of weirded people out. But yeah, that was and then if you want to talk about French Connection, that's a classic too.
Well, let's talk about that next. Because we recently, very tragically, lost Gene Hackman in a very sort of bizarre way. That him and his wife were found dead,
and the dog.
Poor dog was in a cage and starved to death. I think he had developed Alzheimer's. His wife had died before he did, like a week before he did. But I think in his mind, he didn't really know what was going on. So, couldn't call 911 or whatever. And terrible, because one of the best actors ever, Gene Hackman. And the French Connection. Let's talk about the French Connection because his performance in the French Connection, he's obsessed. This cop, this police officer, um, and obsessed with it's drug runners. It's people running drugs, and he's obsessed. Popeye Doyle, yeah, Popeye Doyle, Gene Hackman, and him pursuing these drug runners and trying to catch them. And to this day, I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and it still holds up. That car chase, one of the most amazing car chases ever filmed.
Well, Friedkin's really good at car chases and stuff too, because you even see that in To Live and Die in L.A. too, that crazy car chase. But I'm surprised, like, because you got to remember that's before CGI, so them cars are really crashing and shit, and you're driving the wrong way. That must have been a pain to shoot, but it looks really nice. Like, it's very action packed and stuff, and there's like a mom with a baby, right? And he's like,
yeah. And this was, what was the year? 73? What's the year?
I think it was 70, probably 73 or 71.
Hang on.
And Roy
is 71. Yeah, 71. And so back in the day, Friedkin didn't fuck with, getting rights to shoot in the street and, getting clearance for the street to be opened up and closed down so he could shoot his scenes. And no fucking, he just did it. So there's a lot of that shit that's just out there in the open streets, where people really are in danger. Friedkin would put people in danger. People would get hurt, and we'll talk about Ellen Burstyn, which the injury she incurred making The Exorcist. But he was very focused on getting the shots and getting it the way he wanted to get it done, and whatever it took to get it, And if someone got hurt, well, that's the price you pay.
Well, you heard the story to where I think it was the priest at the end of The Exorcist that was checking on Damien. He slapped the shit out of him or something.
Yeah. Well, at first he said, "Do you trust me?" And the guy said, "Yeah." And then he just, pow. But no, French Connection is a great movie, very action-packed, and one of the best performances.
And I like the fact that the main guy, because it says at the end of the movie, this person got probation, this person got, and he was never caught.
And that's another ambiguous ending, because at the end of it, Gene Hackman's pursuing that main drug guy, and he goes into a building. Gene Hackman follows him, and is out of sight, and you hear a gunshot. And it's like, well, what happened? I guess he tried to shoot him, but he missed him, because you find out that he escaped and was never caught. But you hear a gunshot, and that's the last thing you hear before the credits.
Well, he's so obsessed. Remember, he shoots the wrong guy, and is it Roy Shires, the actor's name? Is like, you killed, you killed blah 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 blah. And he just runs off like he doesn't even give a shit.
But anyway, it won Best Picture that year. And yeah, it's a great movie. Very action-packed, just as an action film and a movie about police officers.
If you're gonna watch it, I recommend trying to get a Blu-ray or a DVD, because I do know that some streaming services were cutting some of the language out of it, which I think is stupid. But
I watched it on, I think, the Amazon channel, and there was cursing and such. And I don't know.
No, it's like more like Pi says something about the N-word, and he says N-words and stuff. And they might have corrected the issue, but a couple of years ago, that was a big scandal, and a lot of YouTubers are complaining about it and stuff. But, it's a different time, and I'm sure people talk like that. I met a bunch of, I worked with a bunch of old dudes over the years that would say the N-word and stuff like that. It's just real. It's not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's just, that's just the way some people talk.
Well, no, I mean, when I grew up in the '70s, and that word flew around all the time. So it's not
Yeah,
not a good thing, and it's not excused. And I can't excuse it, but it happened. Uh,
yeah.
and but yeah, great movie, French Connection, and it won Best Picture that year. I don't know about Friedkin if he won Best Director. He might have won Best Director that year too. Uh, Academy Award, the Oscars. But anyway, let me. But Kathy, hey Kathy, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
He probably should have won Best Director because that's probably the best movie that came out that year, I'd imagine.
Hang on just a minute. Let me, because I got it pulled up here. Uh, Awards. Yeah, he won. He won Best Director. It won Best Picture. He won Best Director, and Gene Hackman won. No, there was nominee. But yeah, Gene Hackman won Best Actor. William Friedkin won Best Director, and the movie won Best Picture. So Gene Hackman won the acting award too. So, uh, so yeah, and of course it's an all-time classic. And like I say, that
The
uh,
music's kind of weird in that film too. It's hard to describe, but like I like the music in The French Connection too.
yeah, uh, but yeah, that in that car chase, one of the best car chases ever filmed. Uh,
I think I like the one in To Live and Die in L.A. a little better though.
well, uh,
But that's just me. I don't know. I kind of like To Live and Die in L.A. better than The French Connection though.
let's talk about that next then. This is a 1985 movie, and it's a very 80s movie.
That's what I love about it. It's like just
Uh,
so like 80s and I like anything that has Willem Dafoe in it. Is that how you say his name? Willem Dafoe.
it's an early role for Willem Dafoe. Um, it's very bright. It's Los Angeles in the 80s, and the movie's very colorful and very bright, and it's got a classic 80s look to it. Uh, and it's counterfeiters, and there's a great scene. It might be Willem Dafoe or another actor, but he's shows how the money is made.
Yeah, it's a Willem Dafoe, and he's in this weird dark room, and he's like painting it. It's like this weird machinery, and he throws it in a laundry, what's it called, like a dryer or something, and he's painting and stuff, and he also paints these pictures and he burns them. Like he painted this picture and he put it on the side of his house and burned it up. And
Burned it, yeah. He didn't like his painting, but that scene where he shows I think it's $20 bills he's making, and it's like a sheet of like tin, and he blows on it, and you see the dollar bills appear when he blows on it. Uh, just amazing process making counterfeit money. Uh, it's like almost it's like you can see maybe the cops are saying something. You can't show this. You're showing how money's made, because it shows the whole process how money's made. Counterfeit money is made. Uh, but and another great car chase. To live and die on that. Yeah, there's another great car chase.
there's a nice twist on it too, because they think they do some shady shit to get money to try to catch the counterfeit kingpin, but they end up killing like FBI agents or something, and so that adds to the story too. They're sitting in that room and they're like, oh, these people killed these agents, and they described what they look like, and so you're wondering if the partner is going to turn on the main character, and flip and snitch or whatever. And it's another one about obsession too, because he's obsessed with catching this guy that he's committing crimes himself.
He's just almost as bad as the criminal. Yeah.
I would say he's worse because I mean, Willem Dafoe's characters make a counterfeit money and only kills if he has to. This dude's like driving around causing wrecks, and damn, he's worse than the mob. He taking everybody out.
Yeah. Uh,
And the ending, I love the very end of the movie too, to where, because I wasn't expecting, there's a certain character that dies, I wasn't expecting it, because I was like, oh wow, that's the lead person. Just got his brains blowed out.
And Wang Chung soundtrack. So great 80s music, Wang Chung. And I've got the sign. I don't know if I have it. Do I have it here? Hang on just a second. I don't think so. I used to have it in here in the house, but I think I took it. No, but I've got the soundtrack on vinyl, and it's the old vinyl. It isn't a reprint. It's the old vinyl. I've got the vinyl soundtrack of To Live Down in LA. I used to really like that Wang Chung music. Wang Chung.
Yeah, it isn't like, it's kind of like the Square guy who was kind of, the up and up. He just becomes a scumbag. He's like, you know what? My buddy's dead and he can't harass this poor girl to get me information. So I'm going to go to her house and be like, you work for me now. And the cycle starts over.
Yeah.
But I love that movie. It's a fun movie. It's one of those movies to where it was 2 hours, but it didn't feel like it. I was like, damn, it's like it went by quick.
Yeah. And also, like I say, the look of the movie, that, cruising's a very gritty and grimy New York during that time period, very grimy and gritty. And To Live and Die in LA is very bright and shiny and polished. And, a very 80s look, which I think was very intentional on Friedkin's part to get that look.
Have you seen the Friedkin movie Rampage?
I haven't seen Rampage. I want to see Rampage, but I haven't seen it.
Because that's one, it's available for rent on Prime, but that's one that kind of reminds me of that look. Because the copy I seen on Prime, it kind of looked like they took a VHS tape or an old DVD. So I'd really like to see like that movie remastered. But like you kind of tell that it was kind of bright, but the guy, he thinks he's a vampire. And he goes on a rampage, just like the movies, him going on a rampage, murdering people, drinking blood. And then it's one of those deals to where after he gets caught, they're trying to figure out if he's really crazy or not. And it's another one of those ambiguous endings to where, is he really crazy? Or he's not a vampire, obviously, because it takes place in like a reality, but does he really think he's a vampire, or is he using that as an excuse to try to get out of trouble type thing? Because after he gets caught, they scan his brain, and some doctors are saying, oh, no, he has abnormalities, he's crazy. And then other doctors are like, no, he's full of shit, his brain's fine.
Another one that I haven't seen that I really want to see is the Brinks Job.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, the Brinks Job, I haven't seen that. Is the one he made after Cruising. No, after Sorcerer. Which let's go ahead and talk about Sorcerer.
Yeah, I just finished that. I watched that. I just finished that about an hour or two ago, and I was confused because I was like, I seen it, but I forgot about it. I just remember the truck on the rope bridge, and I was like, why is this called Sorcerer? Where's the sorcerer going to come up? Where's the witch doctor?
That's actually the name of one of the trucks.
It's the name of one of the trucks.
It's a bad title.
Until you told me that, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, what? That's right.
This is a movie that came out after The Exorcist. And if you're going to make a movie called Sorcerer, after you make a movie called The Exorcist, people are going to expect something supernatural. They're going to expect a horror movie, and it's none of that. There's
it's suspenseful.
Oh my gosh. I only saw this movie like a little over a year ago. And I did a show with Uncle Bill talking about Bug and what was the horror movie he did that you said you saw? The about the killer tree.
The Guardian, yeah.
The Guardian, yeah.
That's one. That's one.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Because it's.
If you want to look on the Dead Pit channel, I did a show with Uncle Bill. We talk about the Guardian and we talk about Bug. But anyway, he had done a show going over the filmography of William Friedkin. and he talked about he had just seen Sorcerer for the first time himself, and he said, "This is a fucking classic," and it is. It's a fucking classic. It's a classic that I have never had never seen until like last year, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I've gone all this time and I've never seen.
What'd you think about the ending? Did he get whacked? Because you remember that guy who sent him
You see
away.
that guy about to walk into the building, and it was Roy Scheider's dancing with this woman, and you see, but yeah, another ambiguous ending.
That kind of pissed me off because he went through all that shit. He went through all that shit, and I'm like, dude, I hope he don't get like that kind of pissed me off.
But that's another one of them freaking ambiguous endings. It's like, well, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, he went through all that shit.
So hopefully he doesn't get whacked, like you said, after going through all that. But basically, there's an old black and white movie called The Wages of Fear, which is another version of this story. And in that documentary, The Friedkin Uncut, he was upset that people were calling a Sorcerer a remake of Wages of Fear. He says it's not a remake. He said, whenever they put a production of Hamlet on stage, they don't call it a remake. It's just another version of the same story. And he said that was all, the Sorcerer was just another version of the same story. It's not a remake. But Wages of Fear, which I've never seen, I want to look that up and try to see that, Wages of Fear. But basically, you have these criminals. That what is the country they go to? What is it? What is the country?
I think it's Argentina.
Hang on.
I watched it with subtitles, and it said speaking a foreign language. It never said the language they were speaking.
Well, let's just say another country. So you have, I think it's 3 criminals that rob banks, or whatever different crimes they've committed. They run off together to this other country, and they're given this mission that basically it's dynamite. It's cases of dynamite that are leaking. So it's basically, what do you call it? Nitroglycerin. And they need to, with these old beat up trucks, they need to transport this nitroglycerin to another location, several miles. And that's the movie, basically, is them transporting these cases of leaking dynamite. And some of the most amazing set pieces that I have seen committed to film. Now, there's the most famous scene for the movie, for Sorcerer, is this rope bridge. That this truck is crossing this rope bridge, and it's got this cases of dynamite, leaking dynamite in the back where, if it's jostled enough, it's going to explode, of course, and kill everybody. And it's raining, and this rope bridge is swaying back and forth, and this truck is crossing this rope bridge. It's a movie that when you watch it, you can't believe someone didn't die making this movie. That it's so realistic, it's so tense. That crossing that rope bridge is just such an amazing scene. And
you see like the tire break through the rope bridge too, and the rope is starting to come apart. And then once they get past that,
just kind of like waving him on, and he falls through the bridge, and because it's rotting boards.
And then they finally get past that, and there's that big tree that's just blocking the way.
And of course, it's Roy Scheider. Once again, Roy Scheider's in it, and he gets a machete, and he's like chopping this. He's so pissed off that tree's there. He's like, what is he going to do with this fucking machete? He's not going to do anything. He's chopping weeds and stuff with this machete. That's another amazing scene, is clearing that tree. That they get some of that leaking dynamite, and this guy knows how to do it, how to rig up an explosion to clear the tree. That's another amazing scene. But anyway, we got someone that's talking. There's Akers here. I was close to William Friedkin from 1995 until his death. She actually knew him personally. And we had many and frequent arguments and an interesting point of view. He was not often right about everything, but interested to talk. Yeah, Akers knew William Friedkin personally. He would admit when he was wrong or when he was convinced you were right. Yeah, that something freaking. He was a man of strong opinions, definitely. You could tell that. And watching those, the interviews with him, and like I said, go to YouTube and just search him. Some great stuff with this team, and watch that documentary.
Have you
Freaking,
seen the Have you seen the interview? I forgot who it was with, but it's William Peter Blatty and Friedkin, and they kind of had an argument about the ending of The Exorcist. And Blatty was upset because he didn't want people thinking the devil won, but then Friedkin was saying that the devil didn't win because of how it went. They're kind of, and apparently that's how that version you never seen before came about or something.
yeah. Well, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. Now, let's see. Before we get to The Exorcist, which is going to take up the bulk of our time.
Yeah,
but,
that you want to talk about that movie Bug? It'd been a while, or we could talk about The Guardian since I came out before Bug.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that kind of briefly because The Guardian to me looks like a sort of a director for hire movie.
It's
there's no style to it.
It's very. I'll never forget. I bought a DVD called Boogeyman: The Killer Compilation, and it's all these different movie clips, and you could watch it with Robert Englund doing the commentary, and he was putting The Guardian over like, "Oh, this is so good. It's like this movie's so good." Blah blah blah. Blah. William Friedkin, and I was like, "Damn! If Robert Englund's saying it's good, I should like seek it out." And I mean, yeah, there's a woman that's kind of half naked walking around. That's kind of cool, but the movie's pretty forgettable. The only thing I really remember about it is there's some evil trees that a guy cuts with a chainsaw, and like there's baby faces in it that cry blood. But
there's a little bit of there's sort of an Evil Dead element to it at the end of it.
It's but
there's no real style to it. You don't see any of Friedkin's. You don't see a Friedkin movie when you watch it. You just see the sort of generic, kind of a horror film.
You wouldn't have known it was him if it didn't say in the credits,
Yeah. It's okay, but it's definitely on the low end of his filmography. And like I say, I kind of saw that as sort of, he's in it for the money. He's a director for hire, just doing it for the money. But hang on just a second.
Yeah, you can't blame him. Get that money, freaking shit.
I heard someone knocking on my door, but I guess not.
Yeah, it's very. I don't know. Maybe it's because I watched an old. It was in the VHS days when I seen it, but I just remember thinking like, "Damn, Robert Englund said it was awesome," and then I watched it. And I'm like, "This isn't." Was Robert Englund like a critic for hire then? Because I wonder about that sometimes. Because Joe Bob Briggs said Texas Chainsaw Massacre: Next Generation was awesome too. So I wonder, do they like pay people to say shit's good? I don't know.
Well, since we're talking about, but definitely a better movie, but Blue Chips, and it's a basketball film. It's Nick Nolte. He's a basketball coach. I've only seen the movie one time. It's okay. I did a watch along, I think, with CK and Uncle Bill of Blue Chips. It's a well made movie. Once again it's a movie I don't really see William Friedkin's mark on it, but it's a pretty good movie anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I'm not the biggest basketball fan either. So it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just not. I'd be interested to see it just because William Friedkin did a basketball movie, but it's not. I was like, I think I'll pick one of the other ones.
Well, I don't like baseball, but I love baseball movies. It doesn't make any sense, But there's so many baseball movies I love, Field of Dreams, and so many movies I love about baseball, but I don't watch baseball. So, but I would recommend it. Watching it. And Nick Nolte is good, But yeah, it's a good movie. But anyway, like I say, we're kind of skipping around here before we get to The Exorcist because We talked about that when we did. I still haven't finished that damn thing. My movies we like, since we were born and
Yeah,
all that.
we spent like a whole hour on.
But we could do a 2-hour show easy on just The Exorcist. So there's lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, skipping around, this is a movie I watched. It's silly. It's one of his first movies. The night they raided Minsky's.
Yeah, I was trying to find that. That's a comedy, ain't it?
Yeah, and I think it's on the Amazon channel.
Yeah.
And it was made in '68. It's silly. It's stupid. It's burlesque. The old comedy burlesque. And the slapstick.
So is it like Fred Astaire, kind of like that real old timey?
But I enjoyed it. I liked the music in it. The comedy acts were kind of fun. I like the songs they sing is kind of fun. And it's basically supposed to be about a girl who accidentally invented striptease. She was a Christian girl, but but she kind of accidentally invented striptease. But you get a lot of go-go dancers dancing, and they're not naked, but they're close to naked. And there's a lot of slapstick in it. You definitely couldn't tell this is the guy that's going to direct The Exorcist when you watch it.
So is it kind of like in the spirit of I forgot the actor's name, but have you ever seen Who's Manning the Store? Like those really old timey comedies? Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, it definitely has an old timey comedy feel, and it gets some really silly slapstick moments, and the old music back then. It takes place I think during like the 20s or 30s or something, the 40s, the 30s, I think. And it's that old time music and the songs they sing and the comedy acts they put on. It's all most of it's done on stage, but it's a fun movie. Yeah, the night they raided it.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds interesting. I like comedies, but it's been a genre that I haven't really been into too much lately. My cousin's like, "Oh, you watches that scary, dark shit all the time. You need to watch something funny." I'm like, "Okay, I'll try to seek something out."
Well, it's like they forgot how to make comedies because they're so worried about offending people now. And, so you can have like Blazing Saddles is one of my all-time favorite movies, but good Lord, they wouldn't even think about making a movie like Blazing Saddles anymore.
And they would miss the whole moral of the story, which is like the movie's not racist, but they would overlook that or whatever. Yeah. But
so
I have to check it out.
They forgot how to make good comedies.
Yeah, I don't know. I like old, older movies, and so as long as it's entertaining, I'm good with it.
Well, I would suggest it. Now it ain't going to move you or anything.
Yeah, because I've noticed with comedy though, it's like especially with stand-up comedy, like it doesn't really. I don't know if it's like it's hard to explain, but like it's like my dad liked watching the reruns of Carson, and I'm like like his delivery and stuff. I don't know. It's just a different time. It's just doesn't fit. I don't know.
Well, see, I grew up with Carson and Letterman, early Letterman, but I grew up with Carson, so I like to watch the old Carson stuff. But yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying though. It's like a different style of delivering the jokes or something. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the night they raided Minsky, it's a stupid movie, but it's fun, and that's another thing that I read. I think right after he did that documentary about the black man on death row, he Friedkin directed an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Hour. Alfred Hitchcock.
Really?
And,
yeah.
And
I got so fat that when I saw my shadow on the wall, and this is a true story, that's how I started losing weight, because I was so big and I saw my shadow on the wall and I heard dun, 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 dun.
But anyway, the story I read is that Hitchcock bitched out Friedkin for not showing up wearing a tie.
What?
Well, Friedkin, when he directed the episode, he wasn't wearing a tie. And that pissed off Hitchcock. He bitched at him. He said, "Well, how dare you not wear a tie?" So Friedkin got bitched out by Alfred Hitchcock for not wearing a tie. So, to his direction.
I guess different times. I guess
And Akers says, I drove with him and my cousin to each to live and die in LA location with him in 2011. He had vivid stories and was great to learn more. That's so cool, Akers, that you knowing these famous people and directors and stuff. We got to do a show with you and just you tell stories of just people you knew and directors you knew and actors and stuff. I bet you have some great stories to tell. But
so what was it? You know what his episode was about on the Hitchcock Hour?
let me look it up here because I've got it on Wikipedia. It's called Off Season is the episode. So I don't know what it's about. Off Season. 1965. So, and also during the 80s, there was a revival of the Twilight Zone during the mid 80s. And of course, that's my favorite TV show is the original Twilight Zone. But anyway, they did a revival in the 80s. And also of the Alfred Hitchcock show, they did that too, revival. But they did a Twilight Zone. And William Friedkin directed an episode called Night Crawlers. And it's about a Vietnam vet that goes to this bar. And his memories of Vietnam bring back the ghosts of the Vietnam, the Viet Cong or whatever, the enemy, And they come, and it's really well done. So I think maybe that's on YouTube. Night Crawlers.
Check that out. That sounds interesting.
But it's really well done. And I remember, even though I didn't even know the director at the time when I watched it, I was like, man, that was good. I just remember really liking that episode, Night Crawlers. But yeah, he directed that. Freaking directed that. And also, I watched, I think on Tubi, he did a television version of 12 Angry Men. He directed. And hang on, let me see. George C. Scott's in it.
Did he ever do one of the Masters of Horror, or am I misremembering?
I mean, he did Tales from the Crypt.
Okay.
On a dead man's chest. He directed, an episode of Tales from the Crypt. But hang on, let me find. 12 Angry Men. Let me find out who all's in that because it was really good. Courtney B. Vance, Ozzie Davis, George C. Scott. I think it was right before he passed away. George C. Scott, and he's real good in it too. 12 Angry Men. Tony Danza of all people's in it, and he's actually pretty good in it. Jack Lemmon, Hume Cronin, Edward James Olmos, William Peterson. And James Gandolfini from Sopranos.
Brandon, yeah, he's one of my favorite TV actors. Yeah.
But anyway, you might want to look that up on Tubi. 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, I have to check it out. I always heard 12 Angry Men, but I never seen it. I always heard about it, like it's an old timey story.
That original black and white movie with Henry Fonda, I love that. 12 Angry Men. It was a movie.
Yeah. I'll tend to go in order, so I'll check out the Henry Fonda one and then the TV one.
Yeah, but no, it was really good, and George C. Scott is great in it.
He's one of my favorite actors. I thought he was like him screaming in Exorcist 3 is like that's like one of my favorite parts.
Okay, before we get to our main movie, let's talk about his last two actual theatrical films. But he did, hang on just a minute. This is one that I don't know if there's any way to see it, but right before he passed away, he did a TV movie, The Caine Mutiny Court Martial. Was the very last thing he did. And he did this in 2023. And Kiefer Sutherland's in it. But it is a Caine Mutiny Court Martial. That's the last thing he directed.
Huh.
And
What does it say it's about? I'm assuming it's some kind of law drama or something.
well, there's an old movie called The Cane Mutiny that's I think based on a true story. But this is the actual the actual case of that, I think. Um, but anyway, I really want to see that. It was just made a few years ago, right before he passed away. Cane Mutiny Court Martial. Let me catch up on what Akers has to see here. He was married to a newscaster for many years and then a Hollywood executive. He could have done more bigger money deals, but he wouldn't partner with his wife. He was offered adaptation of BBC program, The Prisoner. He was paid a lot for that, and it stayed in development. That is now under development from Christopher Nolan. Huh. But okay, well, let's talk about Bug. And
is it weird? I always think of like meth heads when I think of that movie. Because I know they think it's under their skin, but I know people who are, and I'm not, they got clean, but that were on meth. And when they were on meth, they were like always scratching and clawing and thinking, going like this, and it's just.
Well, no, it has a very, it's very connected to meth addiction. And in fact, I think it's based on a play by Tracy Letts, and that's it. He wrote Bug and he wrote Killer Joe also, Tracy Letts. And Bug was a play, and I think the play leans more into meth addiction than the movie does. And I don't know if you're a fan of conspiracy theories, if and movies about paranoia. And it's Michael Shannon. This was the first movie I saw him in. I became a big fan of him after this. Wanted to see anything that Michael Shannon was in. And
I remember Dead Pit did the On the Road for Bug like a long time ago. And that was one that because if you look at the poster, it doesn't look that interesting. It's just like a green cover with a woman's face on it. And I saw that they did an on the road review for it, and I watched their on the road review, and then I sought the movie out, and it was pretty good. Yeah, like to me when I saw that, I'm like, that don't look that interesting. It's just a lady's face. But then when I watched their on the road review, and they're like, yeah, the guy who did The Exorcist did this or whatever, I decided to check it out.
Well, they when they were promoting this movie, they tried to make it look like a horror movie. It's not a horror movie. And basically, and Ashley Judd, this is the best thing I think she's ever done. And she's this woman. She's got an abusive ex-husband, Harry Connick Jr. He's real good in it. And she's really her son disappeared at like a grocery store, so she's mourning his loss. She don't know what happened to him. She's got an abusive ex-husband that's got out of prison, and he's stalking her. The phone keeps ringing with no one talking. She answers the phone. There's no one on the other end. She thinks maybe it's Harry Connick Jr., but then she meets Michael Shannon, this guy that she has kind of a connection to that. He seems like sort of a lost person too. He's an old, war veteran. Like, what was it? The war that he fought in, a Desert Storm or whatever. And she lives in this old dingy motel room. And so he comes, he has sex with her, sleeps with her, and they have kind of a relationship. And then one time, he wakes up. And he's there's a bug. There's a bug under his skin, an aphid. Look, can't you see it? Of course, she can't see it. And there's the bugs, and he starts peeling his skin off. There's sores all over his body where he thinks there's bugs under his skin, and he thinks the government has done this. That they're implanting these aphids under his skin to control him.
this is where the meth is coming in, because I had a buddy that worked for AT&T, and I feel so bad for laughing at this because it's funny, but it's not. This lady came in with an old flip phone, doesn't work no more. You can't activate them. And she's like, "There's something wrong with my phone. There's something in this phone. You need to fix it." And they're like, "Ma'am, you got to leave." And she was all meth, and they had to always have the cops get rid of this crazy lady because she thought that there was something in her phone that wasn't even activated. Like, there's something in here. Like,
But anyway, he thinks that you know the government or the military when he was in this war, that they're have implanted these bugs under in his brain, under his skin, to try to spread this infection. This government controlled infection, that he's supposed to spread this around, so people will be controlled by these bugs and these aphids or whatever. And slowly but surely, Ashley Judd starts to believe it. She starts sort of being infected by him. He feels like he's being infected by these bugs, and she starts to be sort of infected by him, by his crazy, conspiracy theories and all this about these bugs. And at one point, he gets a pair of pliers and he pulls his tooth out in the bathroom mirror. And I'm like, oh, shit. That's one of those scenes. It's like, you can feel that, him pulling his tooth out.
And I don't know about you, but I have some dental work that I have to get done, and tooth pain is like some of the worst damn pain. And so he's just, I'm just like, you can feel it in your bones.
And because he thinks there's some of them aphid things implanted in his tooth. But then Dr. Sweet shows up. And once again, it's William Friedkin kind of implanting like a little doubt that, well, maybe he's crazy, Michael Shannon, or maybe there might be something going on, because that Dr. Sweet guy, he don't seem like he's on the up and up. There's something with that guy, And then when Michael Shannon stabs him and kills him, and he's bleeding, and he goes, "Oh, he's not real. He's an android or whatever." And what does Ashley Judd say at the end? "I'm the mother bug," or what is the thing she said?
It's been a while since I've seen it. I don't remember that, but
she goes, "I'm the mother bug," and she's totally wrapped up in his conspiracy that the government or whatever is controlling, them and trying to spread this infection to the world. So they need to kill themselves, and they douse themselves with gasoline and burn up. But then there's a shot after the credits where you see the motel room, and there's no foil. They put foil all over the walls and bug tape hanging everywhere. You see a shot where there's none of that, and you see the children's toys not messed around. So once again, it's freaking implanting doubt in your mind that, well, maybe this was just all craziness, or maybe there was actually something going on, And it's another one of them ambiguous endings, Kind of leaves you thinking. But as a performance, or two performances, Michael Shannon and Ashley Judd, just great, just paranoia and being just wrapped up in madness. And the way that escalates is really well done, just as performances. Now, as a movie, it's not a movie you're going to go back to very often, because
that's what I was about to say. The last time I seen it was years ago, so I'm kind of going off memory. I just always remember, it's like, oh, that's that weird meth bug movie.
The movie itself kind of gets under your skin.
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm kind of feeling itchy just thinking about it.
It's not a very pleasant movie. It gets under your skin, and it's like, ugh. And after you watch it, you want to go watch a Disney movie or something, or you want to watch a Warner Brothers cartoon or something after watching.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna put in Mary Poppins now.
And let's see. Acre says it is good. I suggest re-seeing Blue Chips. It has a lot more freaking flair than meets the eye. A relative that is a journalist was on the set and wrote about Friedkin as that was being filmed and its aftermath. The 2 hour, 40-minute cut was humorless and bleak in movie, as was very altered. Now, what are you talking about, Akers? You talking about Bug? Um, but uh, uh, but yeah, it's what I recommend as far as performances is to watch Ashley Judd and Michael Shannon and Harry Connick Jr. just to watch his performances. But as a movie that you ain't going to return to it very often, or I'm not, because it gets under your skin and you feel infected watching the movie.
I don't know. Like you brought up the tooth thing. Like I said, like there's certain things when you watch it, it makes you hurt. And I remember I had a staph infection one time, and I kept picking at it and shit, and it got real bad, and I had to take a lot of medicine. It's like I don't know. This makes me think of like stuff like that when they're like kind of digging and going and just. Ugh.
But okay, let's talk about the next one. His last actual theatrical film, Killer Joe. Now, this one I have a lot more fun with, and this one I keep going back to Killer Joe.
I need to see that. I haven't seen that one.
Matthew McConaughey is great in Killer Joe. Basically, it's about, can you still say white trash? Is that going again?
Yeah, that's how I describe my kinfolks.
It's basically this white trash family, your father, a son, and a daughter. And the son has got money from drug dealers for cocaine or something. He owes a bunch of money to some drug dealers, and they're going to kill him. And so anyway, he hatches a plan to have the ex-wife of his father killed and get the life insurance money that the daughter supposedly is going to be the benefactor of for $50,000. And the son says, I've heard of this guy, Joe. He's a cop, but as a sideline, he's a gun for hire. He kills people for money, but he's actually a police officer. And it's Matthew McConaughey. And if you like Matthew McConaughey, you're going to love Killer Joe. It's one of his best performances. He really chews the scenery. Yeah, it's one I definitely recommend. It's a lot more fun than Bug.
So is it played straight, or is there some like is it kind of humorous?
It's not played straight. It's kind of heightened. It's kind
of it sounds almost like a throw mama from the train, or like something that's kind of we gotta kill it today.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't compare it to Throw Mama from the Train. It's gritty and it's a lot of cursing, a lot of fucks and stuff. It's very R-rated. But and the girl, she's kind of nuts, and I like her. She's very pretty too. I'm attracted to her physically, but she's kind of nuts. I like her character, the daughter. But anyway, Matthew McConaughey is the reason to watch this movie, Killer Joe. I'm gonna
have to check that out because I like Matthew McConaughey stuff, especially if he's acting crazy.
Yeah, well, he's good at he does crazy in this movie, and very well. But anyway, I definitely recommend it, Killer Joe, and it's the last actual theatrical film that Friedkin made, Killer Joe. And let's see. Oh, okay. I'm catch up. Okay, so let me look at my list here. See if there's something I'm forgetting. Because, like I say, I haven't seen everything he's done. I haven't seen Jade. Have you seen Jade?
Mm-mm. He made more movies than I thought he did because I don't remember. I didn't think his filmography was that long, but it seems like he had quite a bit of stuff.
Well, let's see. In 67 to 68, there's Good Times and the Birthday Party, which I've never seen either one of those. And hang on, there's a pop up. Let me see if I can get that off here. And of course, you saw The Boys in the Band, the Brinks Job. In 1983, he made Deal of the Century. I haven't seen that. Uh, Rampage, yeah. Jade, and then Rules of Engagement and The Hunted. I haven't seen either one of those.
You need to see Rampage though, because Rampage is really good. And supposedly there's a Japanese cut of the movie that's better or something, or like some kind of laser disc or some shit.
But okay. Let's talk about this movie made in 1973, and
the greatest movie ever.
After The French Connection, Friedkin pretty much had write your own check. You know, he won best director, it won best picture. Gene Hackman won best actor as far as Academy Awards, and Friedkin could pretty much do whatever you wanted to do. And it was a popular novel by William Peter Blatty that, Friedkin sort of being a documentary director and leaning towards a documentary style of filmmaking, he was really interested in, the true story of a supposed exorcism that was done, several years ago that William Peter Blatty was sort of basing his book on. And got to be really good friends with the author, with William Peter Blatty, and got really involved in the making of the movie. He wrote the screenplay, of course, based on his own book, William Peter Blatty, and I watched it the other day. But now you have grown up with the sort of director's cut or the version you never saw.
That's the one I prefer, but I understand why people don't like it because the pacing is a little off with it. But like to me, growing up, when me and my cousin would watch it, there's a Pazuzu face, it's like shit.
Yeah, I
love it, but then again, I'm nostalgic for it because that's the one that I seen. And I like the spider walk. When I was a little kid, I ran out the house when she did the spider walk shit. I was like, but it's funny now because as a grown up and you watch it, that's not even the same actress. That's somebody else. They don't even look like her. But when you're a little kid, you're like, don't pay attention. I guess it scared the shit out of me.
I think it's on the Friedkin Uncut documentary. Ellen Burstyn talks about how a lot of directors don't know how to make a horror movie. That they just go right for the scares right from the beginning, and there's no buildup. It's because the way you make a horror movie is the way that Friedkin and William Peter Blatty did it. You make the audience care for the characters first. You present them as living, breathing people before you bring in the scares or the terror or whatever. You build up to it. And there's no better movie that builds up to the terror than Exorcist.
You get to see Reagan and her mom. She's talking about wanting to have a horse, and they're laughing and having a good time and stuff. And then slowly, even stuff you feel bad for Reagan because her dad doesn't call her on her birthday and stuff, and the mom's on the phone, and it's just, it makes you feel bad because you actually get to see Reagan before she gets possessed,
Well, and also the priest,
Damien, you get to know him, and his mother, and his mom, and all that stuff.
Damien with his mother. His mother she's old and she's living by herself in this old, apartment. He wants to get her out. He wants to put her like in a nursing home, but she won't go. And then, she has an episode. She's put in a mental hospital. And of course, he's so racked with guilt about that she's in this mental hospital.
That's one of the scariest parts of the movie to me is when they're walking through there and you see all the, like the crazy people.
Yeah.
And then she's like, has these things on her arm and she's like, why'd you do this to me? And all this shit. It's like real freaky.
And so those two stories I almost see, particularly these days when I watch the movie. I watched it about a week ago. I watched the original cut. It's on the Amazon channel. They got both cuts. It has the your version and the original cut, but I watched the original cut, and I almost see the movie more about the priest than being about Reagan. Like he's almost the lead character to me now.
Well, the thing is, when you watch the movie, there's one part, he feels guilty about his mom, but I think it's Damien's uncle's like, well, if you would have went to school and just been a psychiatrist, she could have been in a nice place instead of like that. Who's going to have the money? You went to be a priest instead, and so I
Yeah.
guess that kind of makes him feel shitty. Like maybe instead of being a priest, I should have just been a different just a straight psychiatrist or something.
And after what went on with his mother, the mother dies. She goes back home, but he's not there with her, and she dies. And he starts to have a sort of lose faith, like whether he's not sure if he even believes anymore after what happens to his mother. So he has a crisis of faith. But anyway, the movie begins with a great scene. Is it Iraq?
Yeah, it's Iraq, and it's just
Max von Sydow's character, this old priest, which great makeup by Dick Smith because he was just like in his 30s when he made.
No, like I didn't know he was a young man until like a couple years ago. I thought, because I seen him in a movie that came out afterwards. Like, damn, he looks different. I'm like, oh shit, he was in makeup.
What was in that Stephen King movie that he was in that he's real good, where he plays the Needful Things?
Yeah, and I was like, damn, because I just thought they hired an old man.
In Needful Things, he's actually an old man, but in The Exorcist, he was like in his 30s. But it's Dick Smith, a great makeup man, Dick Smith. And so you see him, and he's looking at these archaeological digs are digging up in the ground and finding, and you see the statue of, which I found out years later was called Pazuzu. Because you don't hear Pazuzu mentioned in the movie. You never hear the name Pazuzu in the movie.
But it's almost like like how in certain movies, like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you can feel the heat when you watch it. Like just watching it, like to me, that movie is like I can feel the heat. I can feel like the dust and the dirt and stuff, and he's staring at this big statue. Then there's these dogs that are fighting on the side of him and shit, and
he's got a big dick.
Yeah, like he has a snake penis.
Snake penis. But yeah, great opening scenes with Max von Sydow, and then introducing Ellen Burstyn. She's an actress. She's making a movie. So she's staying temporarily, like in California, while she's making this movie. She had you're introduced to her and her daughter, and Reagan, and then there's the early scenes where Reagan is like, they're was it the what is it, the board, the Ouija board?
Yeah, the Ouija board. And my dumb didn't even know it was called. For some reason, I didn't know it was called a Ouija board. So when that movie Ouija came out, I was like, I need a ticket to Oja. And they're like, what? Oh, that's Ouija. And I was like, oh, damn, I feel like a dumbass.
And so you have this daughter, Reagan, that's, showing her mother the Ouija board. And she plays with Captain Howdy. You who? Captain Howdy. That's who I play. Plays with Captain Howdy. And she made a little clay statue, of this little bird-looking creature.
Yeah. But what bugs me, though, is Chris McNeil goes to touch it, and she doesn't even touch the Ouija. No one touches it, and the planchette slides. And she just acts like, oh, he doesn't want me to play. I'd be like,
no, you don't want me to play, do you? No, Captain Howdy doesn't want you to play. And
no, I would have freaked out. She just acts like that's normal.
You think at the very beginning, when you see this Ouija, thing move when no one touching it, motherfuck, let's get the fuck out of here. And there's sounds in the basement or whatever.
Dude, when you watch this film for the first time, did that candle scare the shit out of you or whatever that was?
Yeah.
It made the
And then she did, the guy, the caretaker, There's rats. No rats. No rats. You know.
But
And no, there's no rats. No rats.
I always remember that scene, and then the caretaker, he's like, "I go get traps," and the other lady's like, "They're closed."
But no, of course, we talked at length about The Exorcist. We can certainly, and we're going to talk some more about it. But that is the thing that what Ellen Burstyn said that really struck home with me is
because
that you're
it's
made
not
to
boring. It's not boring. It's a slow burn. Like my dad says, "Oh, it's boring," and it's like, well, you get to know that it's called character development.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, shit.
And you're getting to know the priest and getting to know the mother and her daughter. And so when things start to happen, the early thing where they're having a party at Ellen Burstyn's house. There's actors and directors and stuff. That director and all that. And he's playing on the piano. And Reagan comes down, and they go, "Oh, we got a visitor here." And she looks at the director at the piano. "You're going to die up there." And she pees on the floor. And it's like, oh, well, what in the world, And he does. He's thrown out the window, and his head turned completely around at the bottom of those steps, those famous stairs.
I heard there's a video that a guy did called Abuse Themes in The Exorcist, and I never picked up on it, but he was kind of saying that maybe Burt Dennings was like a predator or something, because the mom freaked out that he was alone with Reagan. Like, how could you leave him alone with her and stuff? And then Reagan says, "Do you know what she did, your cunting daughter?" So it's like, did he try to do something to her before she killed him?
Why? And it's never answered. What was he doing in her room?
Ooh.
To even get thrown into the window. What was he doing in there to begin with?
Because I never thought of that. That never crossed my mind. I watched that video.
That cop comes in and talks to her, and when he talks to the priest, he talks about how he was thrown out of the bedroom window. So what's he doing in Reagan's room? And
he says like the head would only be, it was like a 1 in 1,000 chance that the head would be spun completely around.
It said it was likely he was thrown out of the window, but of course the only other person in the room was a 12-year-old girl. So
but that character though, I never thought about that, but after watching that dude, that's a video I'd recommend. It's called Abuse Themes in The Exorcist. And he said that even before Reagan, like when she's in the hospital, like the acting out and stuff like that is what a lot of kids who are molested and shit act like. Like they kind of act out like that and talk vulgar and shit like that. But I guess that's one way of reading the film. I was always thought, well, she's clearly possessed, but I don't know.
Well, and that's the other thing that in watching it here recently, that the priest, Damien, I don't think he really truly believes she's possessed. Even when he's with the older priest, Max von Sydow, and they're, getting together, I don't think he truly really believed that she was possessed until he saw that bed rise up off the floor.
Yeah, then he kind of speechless.
You see this close up of his face like, motherfuck. And it's like it finally rings home to him. No,
she's not, and Pazuzu is not looking at Father Merrin like the possessed Reagan's looking at Damien at the foot of the bed the whole time, like they're. Because he's the weak link, Yeah,
and
I always thought it was kind of shitty. Damien just left Marion up there by himself. I'm gonna go down here for a while. I'd be like, you ain't leaving. Where the fuck you going?
But that look on his face when that bed rises off the floor, that look on his face is like, oh shit, this is real, And
my favorite, one of my favorite scenes, though, I think it's only in the extended cut, is when Damien asks Father Marion, why is this happening? And they're sitting on the steps. And he just talks about how it's to affect the people around us and to make us lose hope and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in the theatrical one or not,
It's
but
not. No, you just have them sitting there, but they're not talking. That's in that extended cut. I like that scene. I do. I like that conversation. I still prefer the original cut, but I do like that conversation
I wish
between.
there could be like a hybrid cut because I prefer the extended one, but the ending just kind of drags on with the priest and he gives the necklace or whatever that is, and they give it back to him, and he gives it back to them, and then
Yeah,
Kinderman shows up, and they talk for like 5 or 6 minutes and walk off. Like someone needs to make like a cut of like the best of each and just kind of or something.
yeah, yeah. Um, Spielberg did one of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where he did like an extended version, which I didn't like, and there was the original cut, and he kind of did a hybrid of both that I really like. So that's been done before.
But that
Uh,
scene where he talks about losing hope, that's a really good scene, and I love that part to where she's on the bed, and then you see the statue of Pazuzu behind her. Then that's when he realizes, like, oh shit, it's that statue thing.
but then there's definitely clues that should be pretty obvious that she's possessed,
But they
particularly
keep saying it's nerves.
when
Like she talked in a man's voice and was like bouncing off the bed
well,
and
she,
stuff.
she
But it's
also mentioned,
nerves.
because she mentions his mother. Your mother's in here with us, Karis. Would you like to leave her a message? And he said, well, and he talks later after she throws up on him, the pea soup scene where she spits on him. And and the mother's washes his suit. He said, did Reagan know about my mother? No, she didn't know your mother. He said, well, okay. So there's that little hint there because she brought his, your
Dude,
mother's in.
one of the creepiest things is when he's listeing to the tape recorder and it's like I think it's English backwards, but it sounds
Backwards,
really
yeah.
like freaky. And then the phone rings.
And I guess we should mention Mercedes McCambridge.
She
Uh,
should have won an award too, because to me,
she
like the reason it works so well is the voice. Because that's
she
not
was an actress. She was in Giant. She's kind of a short actress. Um, and Friedkin talked about how something about her. Always he liked her voice. She had sort of a rough voice, sort of a raspy voice, and how he even got the idea of her doing the demon's voice. But what she went through to do this, he like strapped her to a chair, fed her raw eggs. She had quit smoking years ago. She chain smoked. She ate raw eggs. Just all this. She was chained to a chair,
what's kind of messed up is wasn't she like a recovering alcoholic and
Yeah.
they gave her whiskey and shit too?
And all this stuff she did to make her voice raspier and rougher. But yeah. And originally she didn't get credit. And she was upset about that. She didn't get credit for her work in the movie. She didn't, you don't see her name. But
Well,
that
I heard that when Tubular Bells was used, that there was something similar with that, to where like the guy who did Tubular Bells got phone calls saying like, "Hey, bro, your music's in this Exorcist movie." He's like, "What?" And he like called Warner Brothers and wanted his money.
but then she got credit,
Yeah,
they fixed
she
that.
deserves it because I know like people say, "Well, Linda Blair," so it's like, yeah, she's good, but you got to remember it was that Mercedes McCambridge as a voice, but wasn't there another actress that did certain scenes too?
uh
McCambridge or something? But I'm
I don't know.
McCambridge.
What was her name? There was a
Eileen Deast.
Eileen Dietz. I met her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met Eileen Dietz. She was at the first Frightmare weekend I went at. Real nice lady. She's when you see that quick shot of Pazuzu's face, that demonic face. That's Eileen Dietz, and she doubled as Linda Blair because she was the same height. She had the same kind of hair. She looked like her, very similar physically. She looked like her. Uh, so like when she slaps the mother after the stabbing herself with the cross, let
Dude, that
Jesus
scene is
fuck you. Uh,
dude, that scene is crazy. And what's really weird is you remember when AMC used to have Fear Fest or whatever? they showed all of that on AMC, but they censored the cuss word. So like you can show the crucifix, thing, but you can't. Oh, God forbid you say fuck or something.
But
'Cause-
that's Eileen Dietz doing that. She says it's actually doing it to her belly. She's got like a pad. She's not doing it between her legs. She's doing it like her belly. She said, and when there's behind her, she slaps um, uh, the, the mother, and she falls to the floor. That's Eileen Dietz. I think when she's lifting off the bed, I think that might be Eileen Dietz. I'm not positive. But when she rises off the bed, I think that might be Eileen Dietz.
one of my favorite things to watch is on YouTube. They had like a little documentary thing about when The Exorcist opened, and there was like lines around the block, and people were passing out and fainting. And there's this guy who was like a ticket taker. Is like, yeah, people come in and they run out right away, or they pass out. I never seen people pass out before, but they pass out and they come in.
Well, Eileen Dietz, Ellen Burstyn tells a story about. I think it was at the premiere, and she was in attendance, and I think William Friedkin was there, and William Peter Blatty, and a woman ran down the aisle and she passed out. And Ellen Burstyn was running to her, trying to help her up, help her pick her head up and all that. But then Ellen Burstyn thought, if this woman opens her eyes, she's going to see the mother from The Exorcist. So I better get the fuck out of here. So she had someone else help the woman.
The Exorcist is the one. The Exorcist and A Nightmare on Elm Street are the only movies that really I still have nightmares about. Like I have actually, as a grown man, still have nightmares about like Pazuzu and shit like that. So it's a scary movie, at least to me. But I try showing it to some of my friends, and they're like, "Damn, this is slow." When's it? And I get pissed off, and I'm like, "Y'all uncultured swine don't understand."
Well, that's what I love about it. I love the slow build, and I love because you're introducing these characters. You're made to actually, you actually get involved with these characters. You start to care for them.
And just the weird scene. You remember when Damien? He's like he's on the street, and his mom's at the subway thing, and she starts walking down. No, but she starts walking down too, and it's almost like, is she in hell? Like, is she going down to hell?
And that's when you get that quick shot of
like
Eileen Dietz, with that face, Pazuzu face. But I'll tell you, out of all the shocking things in the movie, and of course the masturbating with the cross and the head spinning around, nothing is more unsettling and frightening to me than that scene at the hospital.
Oh yeah, they stick the thing in her neck, and
the blood spurting out.
Dude, that's hard to me. That stuff is kind of the scariest shit, because then they put her and they have this big old. It's like making this noise, like.
Well, I don't know. I think I've told you this story, but this was 6-7 years ago. I was having dizzy spells, and I could stand up and I would like nearly just pass out. I would be like at Walmart, and I would have to get down on my knees. I couldn't walk. I was so dizzy. And I was playing this PlayStation 2 game that was really flashy. I don't know. I forget what the game was. But I think that was causing these dizzy spells. But anyway, I had that procedure done. And it's exactly like in the movie, where this metal hood thing goes over your head, and that bang, 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 bang sound. It's just like that. It's the freakiest shit in the world. No, I didn't have anything injected into my neck or anything. I didn't have that.
But the thing is, too, is like imagine, I don't have kids, but I remember like taking my mom to the hospital, or my dad or something, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong, but they can't tell you what's wrong. They're like, well, we don't know. We have to do more. And just dealing with the frustration. She has to deal with that. Like, what's wrong with my daughter? What don't y'all, like, what do you mean? It's not that, they're like, oh, we don't know. We don't know. We just got to run more tests. We don't know.
And that's the thing is that's really done so well in the movie is and that documentary style that Friedkin did with this film is obviously, and she's not religious, the mother, she's not religious. She's going to go through all the avenues that you can think of to go to try to figure out what's wrong with her daughter, all the medical avenues, having all these tests done, a brain scan and all that. Try to figure out if there's something, if there's a tumor or if there's a broken blood vessel or there's something going on that's causing her to act the way she's acting. The very last thing in the world that she is going to do is go to a priest and say, my daughter needs an exorcist. But she does. She finally, and it's like she just completely gives up. It's like she has no other choice. And that's that great scene between Ellen Burstyn and Jason Miller where she goes to him and meets him and says, it's my little girl, you're the only one that can help her, that she's a woman that's not religious. She doesn't believe in the supernatural, and yet she's presented with this thing that's obviously a supernatural thing that she can't deny. And she has to face it. And then going to this priest that's just about to give up on religion. And so you have two people that have pretty much given up, the mother and the priest.
Well, he even tells her, he's like, I can see her as a psychiatrist. He's like, I can see her as a psychiatrist, but he didn't want to see her as a priest. He wanted to see her as a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But one thing about the film that bothers me, though, is she does look a little too demonic when he goes in there. Like, it's like, yeah, she's clearly possessed. She's all green and shit and has demon eyes and talks.
Yeah. Mercedes McCambridge.
Yeah.
But here's the. But I still have this question. That when he first introduces himself, let me introduce him. I'm Jamie in Paris, and she says, "And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps." But she says she's the devil. And then the way she reacts to the holy water, which turns out just to be tap water. It burns. And she starts talking backwards and all that. And I always wondered, well, why? Why first does he say he's the devil when he's not the devil? And why is he reacting to the holy water that's just tap water?
To trick him?
I guess to make him think that, well, it's just a girl with mental problems, but when he goes to this guy that has got the tape, and he says, well, it's English, it's backwards, and he runs it backwards, and you hear the voices, forward. It's like, well, shit, it's pretty obvious there's something going on here that other than just, her being.
Yeah, it's just, my thing is, like, I love the movie. I think it's the greatest movie ever made, but if I was Father Karras, as soon as I open that door, I'm like, yep, she's possessed. Green eyes and all. That's the devil right there.
And making the drawer open, and
hey, can you help an old altar boy, Father? It's just like,
spewing the green shit on her, spitting up was it pea soup, I think.
Yeah, which it's like, yeah, I know people laugh at it, but I still think this movie's pretty fucking scary,
It is. Well, the idea of something invading your body and taking control of you, that's pretty fucking frightening, To lose control of your body, to lose control of yourself. And yeah.
And I know a criticism is like, people are like, well, why doesn't the devil just break the straps? It's like, that's not the point. The devil could easily kill everybody in that house, like, in a snap, but there's, Pazuzu's fucking with them,
Yeah.
I mean, Pazuzu could easily just kill everybody in that house, but, there's a reason. Like, Pazuzu knows that Father Marin's going to come up there, and really it's about Pazuzu's beef with him, at least that's how I viewed it.
when him and the older priest first come into the room, you hear Baron.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a Western or something, but instead of a stagecoach showing up, it's a taxi, and the priest comes out, and
Baron.
yeah, it's like he's getting called out, but instead of going in the street or the saloon, they're going up to that room. And that's another thing about this movie. It's like it's every time you saw that door, it was like, oh shit, what's happening now?
Yeah. The other quick shot is when what is it, the maid or whatever brings the priest, look, and they raise her belly up, and the help me appears on her belly. It's like, come on now, she's possessed.
He's possessed. Yeah.
Well, where's your doubt now? Come on, help me appearing on her belly. And there's shots in films that are so iconic, but that damn shot there, I mean, when you see that in the movie, it's like one of the most iconic shots in it.
And I just love the way it's filmed too, because you see the taxi, like I said, instead of like a Western with the stagecoach pulling up, you see a taxi come, and then he looks up in the window.
And that light coming through the window, Reagan's window, and lighting him up. And oh gosh.
And then you see like the makeup that Dick Smith done, and those green eyes. And then, of course, he walks in the house, and the demon's really pissed off. And
Baron! But yeah, it's Jaws is my favorite movie. The Exorcist is probably my second favorite.
Well, like I said, it's the one movie that still gives me nightmares as like an adult. I had some weird Freddy Krueger ones, but it was more like I was playing Freddy, and they wanted me to do a fire stunt, and it went bad. No, for real, that's a dream I had not too long ago. They're gluing all this shit on my face, and then they're like, okay, we need you to, we're going to light you up, and then they lit me up, and it went bad, and I woke up.
But,
yeah, but I had exorcist dreams, too. Like, I dreamt I was asleep, and she was crawling on the wall, and then her head spun around, and then her body twisted, and she landed on me and was screaming in my face. And I woke up. So, like, I love that movie. It just gives me nightmares still to this day, though.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that any director that wants to make an effective horror movie should just use The Exorcist as a template on how it's done.
Yeah.
Slow
burn is good,
make your audience care for the characters first before you bring in the horror, the scares, whatever.
And thank God that they used the makeup they went with, because have you seen the makeup test on YouTube of some of the makeups? Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, thank God they went with what they went with, because some of that stuff looked like it was almost like ridiculous, or like what's it called, like something you would see in like a Hammer movie or something,
Well, and then there's some choices that I wouldn't change it. It's iconic, but her head rotating around 360, and stabbing her groin with the cross. Well, if her head spun around,
she'd die.
It would die. You should die. Her neck would be broke. If she stabbed her groin with a cross, she would have permanent damage.
It's one of those things to where I forgive the film, because it is supernatural and stuff. And there's a line where Marin says the attacks are psychological. So are they just seeing that in their heads, or is she physically spinning her head around? That's kind of how I justify it.
But she actually,
she would be in the hospital, wouldn't she? Wouldn't she be like in the ER after that?
With the groin thing, she'd be permanent damage.
Have you seen the Exorcist television series?
I've never seen that. No,
it's very good, but instead of the it takes place within the same universe as the first movie, but instead of a crucifix, they used a curling iron. And that's how one of the reasons the girl ended up going to the hospital, because she put a curling iron up there. Huh. And then the demon, you actually see the demon, and you see him grabbing like people's heads and turning the head. And that's how the demon would kill people, would break their neck.
Well, the
And
way
I
it's
thought,
presented in the movie is when she's possessed,
yeah, it's a
all these physical things can happen. And of course, her face is all there's the sores and welts all
scarred
over,
up.
scarred up. But when the demon leaves her and enters Marin, and he jumps out of the window, she basically is normal. She has a few little scars on her face, but she looks normal.
I always
Um,
wondered who was the poor soul that had to go up there and bring Reagan food and shit. Fuck that.
and the room was chilled, so they you see their breath, and so they're in this
Yeah.
refrigerated room. Um,
I
and
don't. I think I'm trying to remember if it's in the novel or not, but I think they did give Reagan a feeding tube or something, and they described her as being like anorexic and like sunken in and stuff.
oh,
So I guess that would have been. I don't know if you would have been able to do that in '73 though. That would have been kind of hard. You can't starve somebody.
um, and I was going to take, we're about to close up here, but I was going to talk that Ellen Burstyn tells a story, and this is something she held against Friedkin for several years. She finally forgave him for it and started talking to him again. Showed up at festivals and stuff with him. But in the scene where Reagan slaps her and she falls to the floor, she kept telling him, "Look, there was a rope or something around her waist that was pulling her back," and says, "You need to calm down on that. You're going to hurt me." And basically, Friedkin kind of nodded to the guy doing the rope, kind of like, "Yeah, do it more." And so when she's jerked and hits that floor, you see her go, "Ah!" That's real because she broke her. What do you call it? Coccyx?
Oh, the
Coccyx.
tailbone. Ooh, that sucked.
And she broke it, snapped it, and
Didn't Linda Blair get hurt too though?
I don't know if she was hurt, but Ellen Burstyn was hurt pretty bad doing when she hits the floor, and you see her screaming. That's Ellen Burstyn. That isn't her as the character. That's her as Ellen Burstyn.
God, that hurts.
And
Because
but she
that's
snapped her. She broke her coccyx
no.
or coccyx or whatever.
I actually had that injury before. I slipped and fell on my backside, and it hurts. So there's nothing they can do for it. It hurts bad, and you dread taking a poop because your backside hurts. So like, I feel for her on that, dude. That had to suck.
But anyway, she was on crutches
Did she
during
get
the scenes
money?
after that. It was like she'd have to get off the crutches, film her scenes, and she's back on crutches again. But
She hopefully she got paid a little extra for that.
But in that documentary that and Freaking Uncut, she talks about how I told them they need to ease up because you're going to hurt me, and says I don't know, I didn't see him do it, but I think maybe Freaking had nodded to him, yeah, do it harder or whatever.
Well, didn't he shoot a shotgun to get a reaction out of Jason Miller?
Yeah. And of course, like you say, and that guy that plays the priest at the end
when he's slapped the shit out of him,
doing the last rites, and he couldn't really get the performance. And Freaking off camera, Freaking said, "Will you trust me?" He goes, "Yeah." And he slapped him. And so when his hand is shaking, he says, "That's me. I couldn't help that." When his hand is shaking, when he's giving the last rites, to him. But yeah, it's pretty much a perfect film. One of the best horror movies ever made. If you want to consider it a horror film, some people don't consider it a horror.
It's different genres. It's a drama, but it's also a horror film.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's his best film, even though like the French Connection is really great. The Sorcerer is great. To Live and Die in L.A. is great. And
I considered it. I for years always said which movie I consider to be the best. It was that, and always like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But I kind of just settled. I think The Exorcist is like my favorite movie ever.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like I say, it's probably number 2 for me because Jaws is always going to be my top movie, but The Exorcist is probably number 2 as far as just filmmaking, performances, and just everything all together.
The fact that he made people pass out in the theater and shit, that's awesome.
Yeah. And he loved that too. Freaking loved that he made people pass out. And the thing is, William Peter Blatty over the years was upset that there were some scenes cut. The conversation on the stairs, that was one of the main things he was upset that he had cut that. Um, the spider walk, I like it okay, but to me that's just too sort of quote unquote horror movie. It's too it's too it's too much for me. The spider walk. Um, it's showing Reagan to be more possessed than she should be at that moment. To me,
I get what you're saying. I always liked it because it just hits you out of nowhere because you hang.
and then there's blood comes out of her mouth, and to me, it's too sort of stereotypical. It's too much of a stereotypical horror movie moment, and I'm glad they cut that. I like it. It's cool
if memory serves, doesn't that scene come right before the hypnotist scene?
I think so. Yeah.
So I could see why he cut that because maybe the pacing. It's like we're gonna have one scare and then another scare, kind of like you know what I'm saying, like. But I don't know.
William Peter Blatty, for years, was upset that he had cut, particularly that conversation on the steps. So that's when Friedkin finally made what they called the version you never saw, that was re-released in the theaters, puts in that scene, puts in the spider walk, and that's the movie. That's the version that you've always watched.
That's I just prefer it just mainly for those two scenes. But I love that scene to where they're sitting on the steps and they just look defeated too.
Yeah.
And then like they're walking out the room and Pazuzu's laughing and just laughing and they just like look defeated, you know.
Yeah. And it's a good conversation. It's like why is it doing this to
you know, another scene that's suspenseful is when that cop just doesn't fucking leave when he's interviewing her or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Kinderman's over there and she's like, would you like more tea? And you kind of think that he's like, yes, I would. It's like, God damn, would he just fucking leave?
It gets the autograph, you know, well, if it has person, it's for my daughter, or no, it's for me.
Because I think he knows that Reagan was involved and he's kind of like, oh, well, your daughter was up there. So he's kind of like, oh shit, is Reagan going to get busted by the popo? Oh shit.
And it's something that as soon as the cop leaves the house, that's when shit just goes completely crazy. You know,
if you was her, would you go run out and get him real quick? Because if I heard that deep voice up there, I ain't going up there myself.
When it goes up there, and then you get, you know, all the shit flying around, you know, the books and all that, everything's flying around, and then of course, her daughter, you know. Can you imagine hearing those words in 1973? Let Jesus fuck you. Can you imagine that?
Well, there's a podcast I listen to called Monster Attack on Spotify, and the guy was talking about how he's old as hell, but he was like, I think in his 20s when the movie came out, and people were telling him he's going to hell just for going to see the movie. Like there's people protesting it and stuff, and he said that on his show that he lived in the Bible Belt, so there's people protesting it and saying you're going to hell and all kinds of shit just for seeing the movie. And he's like, have you seen this movie? And then they're like, no. And he's like, how do you know I'm going to hell if you haven't seen the movie or whatever?
Well, and then there's been priests. I think there's one on that documentary, the Friedkin Uncut. There was a good friend of Friedkin that talked about the movie, that even though it's really shocking, a lot of the stuff in the movie is really shocking, it shows the priests as being the saviors, you know, particularly the Father Merrin, you know, good winning over evil. And that was the thing that you brought up, that William Peter Blatty was worried that people didn't get that message at the end, that good won over evil. I've always got that, you know.
Yeah, I had to. Even watching it when I was younger and stuff, it's like I always thought it was like Jesus like sacrificing himself, kind of like a Jesus-y thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is funny when he starts beating on her though, and he's like.
Let me ask you this. Now, I love Exorcist 3. I love George C. Scott in it. But does it bother you that we find out that Father Merrin's not dead?
It bothers me in the sense of wouldn't the hospital or whatever, wouldn't they been hip to it? Like, okay, this guy, like someone would, I don't know, like I think they would have known it was him. They're like, oh, he's just John Doe. It's like, wouldn't they have like done some DNA testing? Wouldn't they have done something to find out who he
Well, I mean,
was?
he's at the bottom of these steps dying. What did they do with him? Where did they take him after that?
Well, there's a part where Brad Dourif is saying when it cuts between him and Brad Dourif, he's like, you should have seen these people's face when they see me crawl out of the ground, and I'm all like, so he like was like a zombie, but like the brain was so dead and the body was so weak and it took so long to rebuild it. How did you like crawl out the coffin in the ground? Then I don't know, because you know what I'm saying. Because he's saying like this body was so weak it took years before. I've been here for years. It's like, so if you're so weak, how did you get out of the ground?
And yeah, that's the only thing. I really like Exorcist 3, but I almost wish they hadn't put Jesse in it.
I don't no offense to that actor, I'm glad he got paid, but who the hell was that priest at Exorcist 3 that just shows up, Father Morning? It's just like, and then how did he know that Damien was possessed down there? Because Kinderman never met this guy. There should have at least been a scene or something to where maybe it would have been, I don't know, instead of that one priest dying, it would have been better if like maybe like, because how did he know?
Yeah.
He did. Because he just shows up. He just shows up to do an exorcism, and I don't know if hospitals are the same as a nursing home, but like we wouldn't just let some priest walk in there to do be like, "What are you doing, sir? Like, you have clearance? Like, where's the security?"
Well, of course, William Peter Blatty directed Exorcist 3, and originally it was based on his book Legion.
Yeah, with no exorcism,
and there wasn't an exorcism in the book. And of course, the people that are distributing the movie are no, we got to have an exorcism in this movie. It's The Exorcist 3. We got to have an exorcism. So don't
get me wrong, I love Exorcist 3. I think it's great, but there could have been a scene with Kinderman going to that priest or something, because how else would he have known? I mean, he has scary shit happening to him, like that bird dies and stuff, but how would he know to go to the hospital and go down there? Or what if they just had Kinderman try to do the exorcism or something,
Yeah. But okay, I guess we'll kind of wind up. We running a little late here. Not well, like I said, it don't matter how long we run, but
we could like I said, I could talk about The Exorcist all day. You get me on Exorcist 3, that's another one I could talk about all day too.
But definitely there's some I want to try to find that like The Brink's Job.
I want to see that
Rampage. I want to try to find Rampage and watch that.
That documentary would be interesting to see, where he got that guy off of death row.
Yeah.
And the comedy and
now, like I say, the comedy, it's silly. It's something almost to put on in the background. I enjoyed it. I probably won't go and watch it again. But
I would recommend you watching The Boys in the Band, just because the tone of that movie, how it just shifts. So it goes from being kind of funny and upbeat to being just really dark and depressing. And like the person who you think you like, dude, I hate this guy now. He's a piece of shit.
But before I sign off, I want to thank Acres, Kathy, come in and said hello. Hey, Kathy, Rydeen Stan. Thank you for showing up. And thank you, everybody, for participating. Please hit that thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. That helps folks see the shows. And if you like it, if you enjoy what you're seeing, spread the word. Let people know about it.
Share it, Click the share button.
There you go.
If the Jehovah's Witnesses can wake up and knock on the door at 7 a.m., you could send this to somebody on Facebook or something.
Yep. That's yeah. But please share it and spread the word, and but particularly hit that thumbs up. Sure appreciate that. Thank you, everybody that showed up tonight. There's been another good one. I don't know if he's my favorite director, but he's right up there. There's so many of his movies that are great, and of course,
Just like
yes,
that he did different genres. To me, that'd be like a director's dream. It's like, okay, I get to do a horror movie, then I got to do a documentary, then I got to do a crime thriller, you know?
basketball movie.
But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's just,
Yeah. Uh,
he had a hell of a career.
he certainly did, yeah, and we're certainly going to miss him. Yeah, but
So do you think before we go, do you think his spirit's haunting David Gordon Green like he said he would before he died?
I don't know. He needs haunting. Uh,
No, because he said
yeah,
that there was an interview to where he's like, he said something about he was going to haunt him after he died, and he died not too long after that.
but yeah, go and like I say, go to that documentary on Tubi, Friedkin Uncut, because that was made fairly recently. It was just made a few years before he passed away, so it's fairly recent. And okay, thank you, Brandon. Go ahead and stick with me, but we're going to sign off here. Thank you, everybody. Please keep coming back, and y'all have a good one. And we'll do this again soon. Bye bye.